For many years, climate change and war slowly destroyed the world. But what truly caused humanity's collapse was a mysterious attack on every major city, wiping out the global power grid. When darkness fell, people began to die in massive numbers. At first, men went out to fight, giving everything they had despite heavy losses. They failed, and now women are forced to take up weapons and continue the fight for survival. Late at night, Mary leads a group of soldiers into battle. Flares light up the area, while sharp unnatural sounds echo in the distance. The unit takes position and charges forward. Suddenly, giant creatures known as breakers appear, and the fight begins. 15 years after the first breaker attack, Mary's husband John is teaching their daughter. He explains that breakers have always existed, hidden behind something called the Stitch. When humans melted the ice and destroyed the forest, the Stitch opened and released them. Willa quickly grows bored and interrupts him, until John tells her a legend about a warrior who killed 100 breakers with a single axe strike. Mary also tells Willa stories, mostly about flowers and animals that no longer exist. Then the building begins to shake. Military vehicles arrive and order everyone to evacuate. At the same time, they are celebrating Willa's birthday. There is a small cake and 2 gifts, a wear-upon hat from her mother, and a stuffed dog made by a neighbor, with the money donated to veterans. The moment ends when a soldier bangs on the door and demands they leave immediately. Willa packs her things while John struggles to move because of old injuries. Mary helps him, and they quietly discuss the situation. Mary explains that even after her unit closed, breakers kept appearing. Closing one only seems to open another. They check each other's scars, exchange loving words, and kiss goodbye as Willa watches in tears. When the power cuts out, Willa panics and clings to her parents. Soon after, Mary rejoins her unit, while John and Willa leave with the civilians. A soldier notices John's scars and fears he may be infected. John promises to end his own life if he shows any symptoms. Nearby, breakers begin attacking, causing explosions. Along the road, soldiers explain how breaker infection twists the human body, creating hybrids. Terrified, Willa changes the subject and asks about the legend of Kodiak. Everyone knows a different version. Jana tells her that the message matters more than the truth, and Willa falls asleep. She wakes up to gunfire and screams. John tells her to stay quiet as soldiers fight and monsters roar outside. A female guard orders the civilians to hide in the truck before jumping out to join the battle. A breaker approaches the vehicle, then walks away. Suddenly, a massive claw rips through the truck, killing a woman and dragging her outside. The group flees to find better cover. John and Willa are blocked by another breaker, forcing a soldier to provide cover fire. She is grabbed by a second monster, but her sacrifice distracts the first long enough for John to pull Willa down. They crawl beneath the vehicle, surrounded by chaos and death. When the breaker starts shaking the car, they run again and manage to hide in another truck with the mother and her child. Suddenly, a breaker reaches in and grabs the child's leg. The mother panics and rushes forward to save her. As Willa cries, a breaker lowers its head beneath the truck, but pulls back when a soldier opens fire. After a brief struggle, the female soldier swings her sword and decapitates the creature. She kicks the head away, then turns to check on the father and daughter, revealing that she is Mary. Mary orders her unit to move everyone off the road and into the forest. Along the way, Willa sees countless bodies and severely wounded people. An old man has been infected, and a soldier promises to stay with him until the end. Minutes later, blood begins to leak from the man's eyes. His veins turn black, and the soldier is forced to shoot him to end his suffering. When the group reaches the forest, John worries after seeing blood on Mary's face. But it turns out to be human blood. At that moment, more monster noises echo nearby. Mary tells Willa that she must stay behind to fight, so her family has to keep moving without her. Willa breaks down, saying she needs her mother. Mary orders the civilians forward, and John is forced to drag Willa away as she cries. The soldiers regroup and charge back into another battle. By morning, John and Willa reach the coast. John reveals a boat he and Mary once used for fishing trips. They can still hear monsters and screams coming from the forest, making Willa suggest taking more civilians with them. John refuses, saying the boat is too small. Just then, a man named Kevin approaches and asks if the boat is theirs. John denies it, claiming they are only looking for food. Kevin pulls out a gun, exposing the lie, and demands that John help him escape. John explains that the boat has no fuel and that he needs to get some from an abandoned car. Kevin agrees and escorts him there. After telling Willa to wait by the boat, John follows Kevin to the car with the gun still aimed at him. John pretends to reach for the keys but instead pulls out a knife. Back at the shore, Willa grows more frightened as time passes and monster sounds echo nearby. Eventually, John returns and says Kevin ran away. The two leave together on the boat. After hours at sea, they reach a small island. 1 year later, they are still living there. Willa sits on a hill watching explosions from battles on the mainland. When a bird flies past, she carefully climbs down a cliff, takes a few eggs from a nest, and leaves at least one behind. Later, she returns home to find John chopping wood. He worries when he hears no animals were caught in the traps, since Willa needs protein. She gives him the eggs, but John scolds her for taking unnecessary risks. Willa insists she should be allowed to chop wood and claims she can use an axe just like Kodiak. Amused, John challenges her to prove her training. Willa attacks him with a wooden sword. John easily blocks every strike and ends the fight by pushing her back, telling her she still needs practice. When he turns away, Willa attacks again, but John blocks it and her wooden sword snaps in half. That night, before dinner, Willa asks for another story. John tells her how Kodiak gathered the perfect materials to forge a powerful axe, and how he was the first to see the stitch crack open in the ground. A breaker crawled out, but Kodiak showed no fear and killed it with his new axe. Thanks to Kodiak's experience, humanity learned how to fight the monsters. Willa wonders if Kodiak might really be her father. John laughs and tells her to take the story seriously because legends give people hope. He believes that one day, the world will be peaceful again, and they will return to the mainland. Sometime later, John and Willa go to the beach to plant mines. They observe the breakers on the mainland, and John explains that the creatures have no eyes. He believes they use hybrids as their eyes and ears. Willa wonders what humans did to deserve this attack, and John suggests that the breakers see humans as invaders of their territory. After that, Willa continues her training on a wooden obstacle course John has built. As she moves through it, John constantly questions her about the correct way to fight a breaker, stressing her by describing a monster closing in. Willa slips several times but refuses to give up and finally reaches her wooden sword. She attacks the sandbags representing enemies, repeating the lesson. Breakers must be decapitated, but hybrids require the brain to be destroyed. On the final move, Willa slips again and fails to finish the course in time. Even so, John tells her she did well, and Willa immediately starts the course again. Later, while gardening, John is stunned to discover wild strawberries. He rushes to show them to Willa, who tastes them with delight. John tells her about his wedding cake with Mary made with strawberries and cream. One morning, while collecting water at the waterfall, Willa suddenly sees someone on the beach. She reaches for her sword, then realizes it is just a young girl. Willa shouts to get her attention, and the girl starts running toward her. Remembering the mines, Willa sprints forward and stops her just in time. Shaken, they carefully move away from the danger. The girl breaks down and hugs Willa in relief. Willa takes her to a hidden cave where she stores supplies. Whenever she needs to stay away from her father, she shares water and learns that the girl's name is Rosie. Noticing blood on Rosie's forehead, Willa learns she hit her head on a boat. Rosie explains that she and her family were sailing to her grandmother's place when they were attacked by breakers, and she was the only one who survived. Willa shares more food and says she needs to leave, but Rosie panics and convinces her to stay a little longer. As they walk through the forest, Willa hears a sound behind her and is shocked to see her mother. Mary hugs her tightly and pulls her along, saying they must leave John behind for now and that Willa has to fight. Suddenly, blood starts flowing from Mary's eyes. Willa screams in terror, then wakes up inside the cave. Rosie is still asleep, so Willa leaves her stuffed toy behind and runs home. When Willa bursts in, John draws his gun, thinking he is under attack. He lowers it when he sees her and says he was worried because she had been gone all day. Willa apologizes but does not mention Rosie. She recognizes the gun as Kevin's, and John explains he had no choice but to leave him behind. When Willa asks if all men are bad, John says no, and adds that women can also become hybrids, just less often. When Willa asks if he would kill a normal person, John admits he would if they threatened Willa or Mary in any way. That night, after John falls asleep, Willa secretly takes some food and brings it to Rosie. She explains that she does not live in the cave and pretends she is alone on the island. She shows Rosie a book about the world before the war, filled with animals neither of them has ever seen. Rosie cries for her family, so Willa brings up Kodiak to distract her. Rosie says Kodiak must be dead because if he were alive, he would be out there winning battles. Willa argues that even heroes need help and begins telling a story about Kodiak forming a team to win a brutal fight. When one soldier starts transforming, they discover the existence of hybrids. Bullets fail, so Kodiak kills it with his axe. From that moment, humans learn that hybrids must have their brains destroyed. Willa truly believes Kodiak is still out there fighting, and that one day humanity will win the war. Before leaving, she tells Rosie to stay hidden and gives her the birthday hat. The next day, the training continues. Willa clears the obstacle course smoothly and spars with John, who pretends to be a hybrid enemy. They circle each other, and Willa hides behind a tree hoping for a surprise attack. Suddenly, John stops speaking. Willa hears a strange sound and peeks out only to see John collapse. She rushes over and gives him water, then helps him home. Willa soon realizes John has not been eating, saving the food for her. He insists they must ration supplies until Mary returns. Willa feels trapped and says she wants to fight alongside other women instead of waiting. John grows angry, reminding her that he fought for 5 years and Mary is still out there. To show his trust, John gives Willa his old sword. The following day, Willa pretends to check the traps but secretly returns to the cave. Rosie is gone, and Willa's supplies are destroyed. Something moves in the darkness. Willa follows it and realizes Rosie has turned into a terrifying hybrid. The creature chases her as she screams, slips in the water, and falls. The hybrid lunges to kill her, but John appears and opens fire. The bullets fail, so he draws his sword and fights. After a struggle, he pierces the hybrid's head and kills it. Willa collapses into her father's arms. John comforts her and says they must leave at once, since the hybrid likely signaled the breakers. They pack their belongings and head across the island toward the hidden boat. They stop briefly in the forest, where Willa asks for a story from before the war. John recalls rumors of villages being attacked, ignored by everyone. City life continued as usual, while he and Mary enjoyed their new marriage, especially when Mary became pregnant. Then distant explosions echo through the trees, signaling the breakers' arrival. They run, but are slowed by a fish trap bridge on the ground. Willa crosses carefully along a fallen log. As John follows, Rosie's brother appears as a hybrid and attacks him. John tells Willa to stay back, but she rushes across, pulls the creature off her father, and decapitates it. The body keeps moving and attacks again, knocking Willa onto the log. As she struggles to hold on, John crushes the hybrid's head, finally stopping it. Together, they cross the trap and escape. In another forest, John collapses again. At that moment, Rosie's father, now a hybrid, approaches. Willa begs John to run, but he is too weak. She draws her sword and focuses on her training. When the hybrid charges, she dodges and slices off the top of its head, exposing the brain. With the threat gone, she helps John move on. Minutes later at the beach, John tells Willa to leave alone and reveals that he has been infected. Willa breaks down, but John encourages her, reminding her she is a warrior just like her mother. Willa cuts the rope, but the boat will not slide. She pushes with all her strength, but it barely moves. As blood begins to flow from John's eyes, Willa draws her sword and prepares to fight. At that moment, Mary and her soldiers finally arrive by boat. Breakers pour down the hillsides, and the family stands together, weapons raised ready for the final battle.